I'm joined here today by Mr. Heng Lee, the head of Government Affairs and Public Policy. So thank you, sir, so much for speaking with us today.
Thanks for having me.
And one of the first questions that comes to my mind is, with AI being a buzzword nowadays and the amount of threats that also arise due to AI, what do you think is exactly the role of government and policymakers when it comes to ensuring, the regulations and compliances are something that will actually help secure companies and enterprises, build a safer infrastructure.
I think the role of regulators and governments are going to evolve very quickly. And with the advent of e-government and digital services, practically every ministry is going to become a digital ministry.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no longer the case where cybersecurity or AI is within the purview of just one ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Just to cite an example, in one of the cases that we've seen in a country with a large population, there was a government email server which was hosted on a URL which is publicly accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And what this government department failed to do was to renew its access rights, review the access rights regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened is that there was a account of a staff who had already left service, which was used to compromise the entire mail server. And it was left unchecked for many months before it was eventually detected.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time it was detected, some 600,000 lines of government employee data had already been stolen
Mm-hmm.
and sold on the dark web for 20,000 US dollars. So this is something very sobering because this government department involved is not the IT department. It goes to show that every ministry, every government department in the world needs the kind of awareness and protection against cybersecurity attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like how even if you are not in a security department, you will know that you have to lock up your premises after dark.
Mm-hmm.
And this same kind of psyche for cybersecurity is something that all government departments need to imbue in their staff. And in terms of government structure, I think increasing trend that we see around the world would be how cybersecurity or information security is becoming a function that is coordinated across the whole government, not just something that resides within the purview of just one ministry or one department.
Mm-hmm.
And it is useful because it conveys the message that everyone needs to be aware of these threats.
Mm-hmm.
And the flip side of it would be that if the cybersecurity function resides within just one ministry, they may not have the same clout or influence over the rest of government to get them to take it seriously. So there is a trend that we are seeing. And in India, there is a national cybersecurity coordinator under the Prime Minister's office. It's a sign of things to come, and we see it happening in governments all around the world.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And as per you, how should, policymakers actually collaborate with various security solution providers to kind of bring the best kind of, solutions to the enterprises, especially like when it comes to the interest of the stakeholders?
I will divide this into two different portions. The first would be at the systemic level.
Mm-hmm.
So these would be things that ensure that the processes are in place to make the entire infrastructure more resilient.
Mm-hmm.
To set an example, Kaspersky has been conducting a cyber capacity building program for various government departments around the world. And this includes the CERTIN of India, where they have sent a number of their officers to attend this program, which was very well received. So that's one example in capability and capacity building. Another one would be through the signing of memoranda of understanding. We have done it with international organizations like Interpol, and more recently in Africa with Afripol as well.
Okay.
So these go to put in place a system where we share information for investigative assistance with international organizations. And it brings about very real impact because just to set an example of collaborations that we did with Interpol, we were able to provide information regarding an upcoming attack on a certain Latin America country, which prevented the loss of to the scale of what would have been the equivalent of the Bangladeshi heist of 2017.
Okay.
So in terms of systemic structure, this is what the private sector could do to contribute towards the government. Now, moving on to event-based initiatives. Um, the private sector could co-create policies and provide feedback to the government when there are upcoming laws and regulations, just to make sure that, you know, the upcoming laws and regulations are not written in a way that completely impede the operating space of the technology sector. And events like today's, where we collaborate with thought leaders across the industry and have government stakeholders become part of the panel, are useful in generating ideas, allowing these ideas to cross-pollinate, and bringing about actionable lessons for the industry so that industry leaders can take away something that's transferable to their board of directors as well as all levels of their staff. Of course, the tech community, of course, has to be very collaborative when it comes to building their own cybersecurity and keeping themselves secure, building their own wall of defense. Like I had a conversation with Mr. Adrian here as well, when it was discussed clearly that there has to be a certain, like we all belong to one side of the defense and the other side is on the cyber criminals. So definitely there has to be a collaborative effort in the tech industry, and such panels like today from Kaspersky Connect 2025, definitely it was very insightful, and I believe that a lot of people will be taking home fresh perspectives, even perspectives coming from policymakers, which is a little tough. Like normally when we see any rules or regulations coming through, we see the rules and regulations coming through, but not the thought process behind them. So it's very important for everyone to be aware and to suggest fresher perspectives to this. So definitely it was great meeting you, and a true pleasure to learn from your insights. So thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Thank you.